So say you and your partner want to have a baby, but you guys both have brown hair and you want the baby to have blonde hair. Well, what can you do to change that? Or there is one way, and it's gene editing. Gene editing can change the color of your baby's hair from brown to blonde, which is an awesome thing. But it can lead to a lot of issues, and I'll be persuading you about thinking about these issues and what you can do to stop them. And if you don't stop them, what are they gonna do to our future? So the first issue, the main big one that I'm talking about, is designer babies. So designer babies are basically the changing of a baby's DNA to make it whatever the parent or the doctor sees fit and whatever they want. So, as genetic becomes more important in the world, you can see it become more cheaper. And as it becomes cheaper, parents and adults will want to use it on babies to change the small things about them that they don't like, whether it be a height is in the family that they can't grow past 5'4", and they want to make their kids 6'2", they can do that, which is a bad thing as it can change demographics. It can make less small people, more tall people, less brown haired people, more blonde people, less brown eyed, more blue eyed. So as that changes, that can cause a lot of issues among groups and certain classes. And genetic can change the world in a ton of amazing ways, but also destroy it with designer babies. And while it may not seem like a big issue, it is often seen as unethical, as first of all, the baby doesn't get to choose. Maybe the baby will grow up and wish it had brown hair, but it really had blonde because the parents changed it, or the baby kind of wished it was shorter, but it's 6'2" because the parents want to change it. So that's a very unethical way. And just changing a baby before it's born is just always unethical. And Pascal Jarry wrote in his book, The Human Recipe, that changing a baby that would not increase their quality of life is unethical. So changing a baby for a good reason, such as type 1 diabetes or sickle cell anemia, those are ethical, so they would be seen as good. But changing it for the height, weight, athletic ability are often seen as unethical. And one big issue is that a lot of parents support it. In the article Designing Rules for Design Babies by Scientific American, a survey found that 10% of a group who went for genetic counseling expressed interest in making their baby taller, and 13% said they're interested in making their baby have superior intellect. So these changes are seen as unethical and could lead to a lot of bad issues and political controversy. And so you should think about where you stand on this topic. You should think about why would you do this, and if you're not, why would you not do that, or why would you do it? And think about the unethical and ethical decision. Hopefully I can persuade you to choose one over the other. Hopefully you choose ethical. Luckily there are ways to solve this issue, and one of the ways is just stay educated. Stay educated on the topic, listen to speeches, and research and do your own research. And so some ways it can be controlled is through regulation, which can be through government, or if it goes into the private sector, in the private sector. But hopefully it can stay in the government, as the government cannot make as much money, and private companies just want to do it for the money so they can do less ethical stuff. And so if it stays in government, it can be strictly used for diseases and disorders. And law professor Alta Caro says in Designer Babies that the most important consideration for it is to be clear about the distinct roles of personal morality by which individuals decide whether to seek out technological assistance versus the role of government, which can prohibit, regulate, and promote technology. Which basically means the government can regulate it. If it has gone into the government sector, the government can regulate it however they want. But if it was in private, you'd think about the morality and how moral it is to do each thing. So, and another issue is that way to keep it in the safe is to inform the whole world, because if it becomes illegal in America, a person can just go to Mexico and do it, which is also unsafe for the person doing it, as their technology isn't as good. So we just need to push for worldwide regulations for it, and force the world to see how dangerous it really is. So if designer babies are not stopped or regulated, there could be terrible effects. So hopefully it will get regulated, but if not, these are the issues that could arise from that. First off, designer babies could be seen as superior to humans, which is a terrible thing already. So if they grow up knowing they're superior, it can lead to a lot of separation between the groups of designer babies and not designer babies. And often people who will be doing designer babies, if it happens, will be the wealthier portion. So the rich-poor gap will become way bigger as they're not just more wealthy, but they also have a higher intellect, a higher strength, the best genetics, which is a terrible thing. So it can lead to a lot of separation among people. And also the designer babies could be raised in wealthy neighborhoods where almost every baby is designer babies. And so when they see someone that's not, they will look down on them, which is a terrible thing. So because overall, it's a terrible thing. And it could possibly lead to supreme race of only designer babies can live here, and only designer babies can do this, and only designer babies can play sports, and only designer babies can do this, which could be seen as designer babies as being superior to other types of people. And Tandis Osar writes in A Fundamental Right to Genetic Modification of Embryos that society may be worse off as a whole because of the harm arising from homogenization of the population, which means if designer babies all have the same code, as they use the same traits, it could lead to less diversity, and eventually the whole world could be blonde hair, blue eyes, 6'2" dudes and girls, which is very bad, and it can lead to a lot of issues such as they will be more vulnerable to certain diseases as they all have the same genetic code, and it could lead to random mutations causing big issues between that. And no one will be different, no genetic diversity, which is just a bad thing. And if anyone doesn't have those traits, will be seen as less and be looked down on. But luckily, there are ways to stop this if we do act now. We need to push for regulation of the government, or if it goes into private sector, push for it and just stay knowledgeable. And as it becomes more and more important in our society, continue to learn about it and do whatever you can to make sure they push regulations. So, yeah, and thank you very much.